What it do? What it do? It's your boy Andre Spruell, and you are tuning in to Middle of the Fence podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, whether you're listening, watching, or both. As I like to say, time is the most valuable thing on this earth because we could spend it but can't make it back. So as always, thank you for your time. Have you ever wanted something so badly but stayed quiet about it? Not because you didn't believe in yourself, but because you were afraid of being seen trying. Today's focus in this episode is the fear of being seen. So had quite the intro to literally illustrate that. And the fear of being seen and all the things that come with that as a result of putting yourself out there. So some examples that fall into that category. Going to the gym consistently, especially if you're not a natural gym goer. Starting a new business or side hustle, posting content online, going back to school or changing careers, setting boundaries with family and friends, publicly sharing a personal goal, or getting back on the dating scene after a serious heartbreak. And the fear that we have of being seen in public while putting ourselves out there, it's not laziness, it's not insecurity, and it's just the fear of visibility before mastery. So when it comes to social anxiety and self presentation research, general psych studies show people fear how others will evaluate them. So they avoid situations where they might look like they're imperfect. And the idea of perfectionism is something that people hold on to. Like, I'm a perfectionist, right? So everything needs to be perfect. Guess what? How can things be perfect when we're not perfect as human beings? And you guys know I'm all about the cliche sayings, right? So that's one aspect of it, right? And then because of one of the traps being things having to be quote unquote perfect, it leads to that draft never getting posted, the goals that stay secret, and the dreams that stay internal. And what springboards off of that is being trapped in the planning phase, right? So whether it's, let's say, you're launching a new business that you're going to be putting out there. You can have the most elaborate business plan that's 100 pages and it looks so nice. There's diagrams, there's facts and stats and everything laid out perfectly. But you don't actually execute on the action to make it happen, because what can happen is you get that motivation to start it and then you plan everything out, right? And then right before you take the action, it's like, oh, let me go back to the planning phase again because I need to tweak this and that, right? But sometimes you just, well, not sometimes, it reaches a point where if you're in that planning phase because you're too scared of putting yourself out there, you just have to take the action to put yourself out there because you can't plan for everything. There's going to be things that come up that you didn't plan for. So got to keep that in mind as well. But here's the wild part. Most of the judgment you fear isn't even real. And this is from a 2000 study, and excuse me butchering these European-based last names. It's a 2000 study from Gilovich, Medevec, and Savatsky. They identified the spotlight effect, which is a cognitive bias in which people overestimate the degree to which others notice their actions and how they look. So in this study, what they did was they had the participants wear a t-shirt that was very embarrassing, right? And then the participants figured that about 50% of the people would notice the embarrassing t-shirt that they're wearing. And when they got the results back, it was far less than that, right? So that study is an example of how we can be so in our heads to the point where, frankly, it's pointless to do that, because you can put the time and energy to just continue being consistent and putting action towards the thing that you're putting yourself out there for, right? Versus putting that time and energy of overthinking. And then as a result of being an overthinker, which is something that a lot of people can relate to, you start to create scenarios that don't even exist. And this goes for everybody, regardless of what environment that you grew up, regardless of what world you had to navigate. This is something that we often fall victim to, me included, even though I don't like to admit that, right? But, because what can happen is you just start to make up all these scenarios, and it's like trying to cross a bridge that's not even there, right? And for me personally, when it came to the fear of being seen, was the day that I launched the announcement that Middle of the Fence was going to be out there, that I was going to start a podcast, right? I was in the planning phase for the longest time, and I had like 10 different drafts of like what photos I was going to use, like what videos that I was going to put along with it. And the day that I hit post, because I didn't know that I could schedule posts directly through Instagram, that's how horrible I was before I started all of this. I literally felt my heart sink to my stomach because of how scared I was. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, people are going to be like, another guy with a podcast. What is it going to be about? Is it going to be one of those like misogynistic podcasts? Is it going to be like, what is it? Oh God, you know what I mean? But fast forward to where things are at now, right? I've gotten so comfortable with, okay, yeah, the first times that I was posting, my clips were so bad that there was like extra like audio noise that was like creaking in like the background. The captions weren't even like fully matching sometimes what the people were saying and all that. And when I first got into the studio, I was like, my name is Andre and welcome to Middle of the Fence podcast. Thanks for tuning in. But the more that you let go of looking or, having that fear of what other people are going to think or say, the better you're just going to show up. And I feel that when you truly start to embrace looking foolish, right? That is a superpower, right? Because for a lot of my life, for most of my life, and just other people that I know, like in general, no one likes to look foolish. Of course not, but I've learned that looking foolish is actually something that I relish, right? Even like personally, like I got a promotion with my job, and I'm learning something that I literally have zero knowledge about. I'm asking questions that you should know, right? But I've learned to embrace looking foolish in those moments, or even if it's learning a new card game or something like that. My first time learning spades. Don't let the complexion fool you. I know how to play spades too, right? But it's like I looked foolish because I was asking questions, and while I was playing, I was putting down the wrong cards at like the wrong time. Like it's like, oh, I can't play a spade yet because I still have a diamond and a club in my hand. You know what I mean? So, whether it's something as serious as launching a new business, or starting to go to the gym, or even something as small as learning a new game, embrace being foolish and looking foolish, because everyone has to start somewhere, right? And another thing too, trust the process, right? Because that's the most like rewarding part when you can physically see your growth of, hey, when I started this new job or new career path, I didn't know shit. Fast forward all these years, I was consistent, I moved up, and now I know the ins and outs of everything, right? So don't ever limit yourself in any aspect when it comes to that. And also, too, during the whole time when you're in your head and putting yourself out there, you never know who is looking up to you, right? And who you're inspiring to be better, because it's like, hey, if this person that I know personally took the courage to look foolish and put themselves out there and and have built themselves up to where they're at now, that's inspiring. That makes me want to be better and change this part of my life. So that's another aspect of it too. You can never underestimate who you're impacting as a result. And you don't wait to be confident. You become confident by being seen. So what do we do now? So once we finally get out of our heads and are okay with looking foolish and starting to care less and less about what people think, post that draft, say that goal, share that journey, right? Because again, you never know. So let someone see you before you're ready, because there's no such thing as being ready. Point blank, period. There is no such thing as being ready. Again, whether it's launching a business or any of the other examples that I covered, even with something like getting married to your significant other, is that something that, no, I'm ready? No, you just do it and trust in the process and the result, but we won't get too much into marriage and divorce rates and all that, because that's not fun stuff to talk about. But anyway, throw yourself in it and figure it out along the way. That's something that I've learned in my late 20s, right? With the current job that I have, my boss, when I first started, he would always say, "Oh, just figure it out." And coming from that planner mindset, I'm like, well, we need to, figure everything out and map everything out and then take action and figure it out. But, when it comes to business or, this podcast or with whatever it is that you're going through that aligns with this topic, it really is about throwing yourself in it and figuring it out, because by throwing yourself in it and figuring it out along the way, you will find out a lot about yourself. And as a result, you'll be able to grow and evolve into who you're meant to be and even more. So you don't hide growth, you share who you're becoming. And the question that I posed to my audience for this episode: what's one goal you've been hiding because you're afraid of being seen trying? Again, what's one goal you've been hiding because you're afraid of being seen trying? Take some time to ponder on it, or shoot me a message at Middle of the Fence on Instagram, or personally at Andre Spruell on Instagram, or leave a comment wherever you're tuning in from. So thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. And if you like this episode, if you're a YouTube watcher of these episodes, you better subscribe, and please feel entitled to comment and like as well. And if you're tuning in on your favorite podcast streaming platform, give us a 5-star rating and follow us so we can continue growing this Middle of the Fence family. And no matter which side of the fence you grew up on, we're all more alike than we think. My name is Andre Spruell. Catch you guys next time.